Okay. What a wonderful day to be here today because we are having all kinds of exciting topics to talk about. And one of the ones is going to be women's history because it's March's Women's History Month.
Amen.
And we want to welcome you to something to think about. And I'm Janice.
I'm Brian.
And Janice and Brian are going to be here to share some news with you today. And I'm about to give you something to think about for real today. And one of those is this. Why is it that in the world, as we know it, most things are male generated, even in the animal kingdom?
Right.
And if you've noticed that, you see in the actions of the interaction between a lion and a lioness. What's the lioness's duty?
Mm-hmm.
What's her duty? You know what it is.
To support her man.
To go out and run and chase down everything and bring it back for him to eat, right?
Pretty much.
So he's just laying there going, hey, when you coming back here? That kind of thing.
Yeah, I have no problem with that.
I figured you wouldn't. But, okay, so that's that scenario, but there are many of them in the animal kingdom where you got, for instance, snakes. They go and impregnate the female snake, and then they go on about their business. So the female snake is the one that takes care of the babies. And when after she has the baby, she abandons them. So that kind of trend is also a human traits, where we do the same kind of thing. A lot of men, and believe me, when I say men this time, all through this, I don't mean all men. So that's my disclaimer right there. I don't mean all men. If it applies to you, soak it up. If it doesn't, walk away. So the thing is, what I wanted to do today specifically is to go from the angle of women's history and the history of women's behavior, because a lot of women don't understand why they behave a certain way. And we're going to try to clear some of that up for you today, get the weeds out of the way.
All right.
Because if you want to have a good relationship, don't you have to be on kind of some equal terms?
Pretty much.
Because I think the last time we talked about this, we were talking about reciprocal kind of relationships. And I don't know if a lot of people understand that that means both of you are getting something out of the relationship that's positive and you're not trying to hurt each other.
Right.
So, you're supposed to try to get to that point where it works.
Mm-hmm.
But then you have, guys feeling this way about women, and they've always kind of felt like women are, not as superior as they are in a lot of respects. Some view them as just being accessories to whatever act or play that they're trying to put on. And so we've never really gotten that kind of respect from men since day one. And if you go from the biblical point of view, you have women being created to be a companion to a man. And somehow the male of the species interpreted that to mean that you are my slave. And you're supposed to do what I tell you to do, and you're supposed to react the way I say. I think it's been interpreted that way for a long time. And I see your faces saying, no, I don't agree with that, Janice. So I think what do you think it is then?
Well, I think that pretty much, like you said, a companion or a helpmate or however you want to call it, if you want to go into the biblical terms.
Mm-hmm.
But, a slave, I don't see it as a slave.
Well, you do.
So yeah, I wouldn't say a slave, but you work together. It's just like any team. You're gonna have a captain, and you may have the co-captain, or you got a person that does the rebounds, a person that shoots the ball. So you still have to work as a team, and so don't mean that that person that's doing rebounding is doing as much work as the person that's scoring. So.
Well, okay, and if I go ahead and agree with you on that point, I'm going to give you another one to ponder.
Okay.
When a man goes to work and the woman is home, she is expected to do certain tasks, chores, while he's gone. Because a lot of men will come back and say, okay, what time is dinner? Or you've been home all day and there's no dinner cooked. And he expects her to perform along those lines.
Right.
So what if she goes to work and he goes to work and both of them come home together? So why does it become the natural expectation for her to do the cooking? I don't know what that is. What is that? What is that perception?
Maybe he don't know how to cook. But I mean,
it's her responsibility to teach him.
Well, it's what they agree upon, and that's all about communication too.
But do you think that people communicate on that level as a rule?
I think some people just assume that role. Like, hey, I'm home. I'm a cook. It's just,
well, that's the sad
sometimes
part
they may not have that actual communication, but they just do it. Hey, I'm hungry. I'm going to make you a sandwich. I'm going to make you a sandwich, so.
Yeah, but that's the thing that I said before. And then go back into the annals of history for this one. And that is that when people first started mingling around, somehow the male of the species got the idea that the woman's role was for her to take care of his sexual needs more than any others, because then he'd have these women who just laid around and sat by the pool and wait for him to beckon and say what to do. And it kind of starts with that kind of behavior. Mm-hmm. And I said to some people before about sometimes your level of affluence affects that woman's behavior, because if you're with a person who is affluent, and they give you jewels and silks and satins for you to wear all day, and basically that's all you do, they have another type of woman in the kitchen, one who does the cleaning, and some that lay by the pool and chill out. Wait for him to say, come on and go this way. So those kind of things determine what kind of behavior you have, because you imagine that if you're in a situation where you have some sort of wealth, then you're going to be treating those women like an accessory that you wear. But in those days, you had those women that had the hair up and gold and jewels around them and all of that. But then what about the women who had to get up in the morning and take a big urn on their back and go down to whatever the water source was and bring water back for the family?
Right.
So that's a different level, different kind of woman, if you will, a certain kind of behavior that's expected of that woman. And then you'd have those that are going to do things, and some of them were warriors, and they would go out and, fight wars depending upon what was happening. So women have so many different levels of behavior. And a lot of it, I do think, is influenced by how much affluence is in your environment. Because women who were the, quote, slave girls, they were expected to do a certain chores, or they were the women who took care of the women who were in the pool.
Yeah, I mean, they had
each one of
certain
them
roles.
had what they call the maidens. Or whatever.
They had certain roles and based on the role that they did, they were supposed to act accordingly. Yeah, because I mean, back in those days, men had 4 or 5 wives, and pretty much each of them knew their role. Yeah. So you don't see it nowadays, but.
No, because they'll get locked up. We're not having that.
Well,
that's polygamy. No, we're not having that. You're not going to have 5 women.
Well, I mean, some men got 5 women they just don't know about, so, but either way,
well, if you get 5 women, then I want 5 men. Simple as that.
Hey, it's to each their own. So, but like you say, they have one woman for, like, say if they go into an upscale event, and one person they can just chill with, or whatever case may be. So,
but see, I don't really knock that, because my level of interest may be 5 times higher than yours. Maybe I like to go to the movie, to the theater, and also like to go traveling, and I like the beach and blah, blah, blah. And yours just may be I want to sit here and look at TV and watch sports or play for FanDuel or whatever I do. And you don't want to do those things. So depending upon your level of interest is how you and your partner are going to get along, because if you like that and you've already discussed, and I stress that because people don't talk to each other about what their likes and dislikes are. Right. And that's when the fights start.
And it's all goes down to communication.
It does. Yeah. And everybody does. And they don't understand that you have a voice because you're supposed to communicate verbally.
Mm-hmm.
Why not use it to talk to people and let them know what you like and don't like? Well, I had a discussion earlier with a male, and I said to him, when I tell women that I was married for 32 years,
Mm-hmm.
and in the length of time that I knew him, which was, of course, 2 more years than that, he had never called me the B word. Never.
Right.
But when I tell women that, they just like, wow, think I'm trying to, be more than I am or something.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not trying to impress them. I'm just telling you the truth. That's the way it is. I didn't allow it. And I let him know that before we ever got close, before we ever went on a date.
Mm-hmm.
So I just tell him these are things that I like and don't like right now.
Yeah, and a lot of times that's into getting to know you phase.
Yes.
Of the relationship. Like, you can lay it all out in line. Hey, this is what I accept. This is what I won't accept. This is a no-go.
Yes.
I don't like this. Whatever triggers, this is, far as in the past. So this is kind of set me off or whatever case may be. And so if the person is listening,
that's the key.
Then
that's the key because they don't listen.
And they would listen like, okay, I know that this person, she don't like her food to touch, whatever case may be. And so whatever case may be, or I know that he don't, like when I do certain things or whatever case may be. And so that's a part of listening and growing with that person.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to find, some some things that may or may not like, or maybe they'll try and open up.
Right.
So.
But I always ask guys to just be honest with me about what it is you expect, because I guarantee you that the situation is going to come up where you expected a certain thing, but you didn't tell me about it. And now I do it because it's something I like to do. So now you want to tell me, well, I'm having a problem with that, and I just have to listen. Like you said, just listen. And then I tell them, okay, I've heard your point of view, but I don't plan to do anything about that. Now what?
And see, and you said when guys, and a lot of times guys, and I used to do it in my past, thinking that we want to tell women what they want to hear.
I know.
Thinking that that's what we're going to get the women. And it don't work, And then, because women, you can tell a woman, hey, this is what I like, don't like, this and that. And some women, like you said, hey, they'll listen, they hear you, but they're going to do what they want to do regardless. So then if you see that a woman is moving that way, then that may not be the woman for you.
May not. And when it isn't, just go walk away.
Exactly. But if you stay there, then you say that behavior is okay.
It's okay, and it isn't. And that's why you have relationships that don't last for 15 minutes, because everybody's expecting their point of view to be the dominant one. Mm-hmm. And that's just not going to happen. So you might as well get used to the fact that communication, as we agree here, is the number one key for you trying to get along with somebody, ladies. Communication is the number one key for men to get along with them and to have a good relationship with them. And the reason why I'm bringing these things up during Women's History Month is because women have a history of trying to conform to whatever it is the guy wants them to do rather than what they want to do. And a lot of them will take that to the extreme, and then they meaning women, want to do what they want to do, but they don't care what the guy wants. So that's why I go back to the fact that we have to talk about what we like, what we don't like, what we'll tolerate, and what we won't. And if you get into that habit, the relationship that you're in is going to grow. Mm-hmm. Because I don't ever assume for a minute that a man can think the way I think. No way.
Nah, we don't kind of think that way. And it's surprisingly that men we think on more simpler terms, and women more maybe emotional and general emotional, and they go all around the mulberry bush, and we be like, yeah, I was just thinking about the game, So that's what you was thinking, like.
That's why that's why I tell them about all that extra stuff that you put on your face and all the hair that you want to put in, and everything else. When you get right down to it, I said most of the men that I've talked to about this matter could really care less.
Exactly. You do all of that for what?
Yeah.
But sometimes I believe that the women do it for the women.
You think they do?
Yeah, because like you say, I'm a guy like, oh, I like your hair natural. Yeah, you don't need all that makeup. You know, you look good to me, you know.
But women are just a little bit extreme of everything in terms of those emotional things. Because they'll say they're doing it for themselves, but I know that a lot of stuff that they're doing is because they want some man to be attracted to them. Like, I can't believe that for my personal preference, I want to walk around with a pair of pants on that have juicy, written across your behind. I just don't believe that's what you want to do. And if you do, what's the purpose of it?
Yeah, because pretty much they get the attention.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it is they want that attention, but then they getting attention from the men that they really don't want.
Exactly.
Because the men that they want is really looking at the other one, that's don't have the juicy on them and they, acting, they may quiet and such and such.
But quite frankly, if I were a man and I saw a woman with that written across her behind, I wouldn't go near her. Because that juice is usually coming from some sort of disease. Because your body is not usually that juicy. So I think it's something wrong with you. And I stay away from them because whatever they have, I don't want it. So that's the way I look at it. And I think that by talking to a lot of men, they're saying, no, I don't want that type of woman. I want her to have more class. Well, I want her to be a certain way.
Men probably looking at her like, yeah, she's a fun toy, something to play with. Mm-hmm. But they're not going to wife her or you're not going to meet mom. Like, nah, you ain't seen no
Mom, meet my juicy girlfriend.
Nah, you're not like, yeah, just have something fun with and on to the next.
But see, I wish you would just explain that a little bit more because I don't think women get it. That men have them in categories where you don't want this or that from them and what you interpret from the kind of behavior that they have. So if I'm walking around, and the thing that annoys me with women is that they want to put on all this extra stuff, and then when they get it on, and the guy say, hey, what you doing, dressed up for Halloween? Now the feelings hurt. I don't believe he said that to me. He's a so-and-so and so. But you wore it.
Well,
when you walked out, you thought it looked good.
When you put it out there and when you walk out into the world, somebody's going to always have criticism.
Of course.
That's a part of life. You wore something and they may say you look good. You're going to accept that. But then they say the opposite, then it is what it is.
Now you're going home with mental illness issues.
Exactly. So you got to accept the good with the bad. So that's just life,
And it absolutely is. And you have to recognize it as being a fact of life. And go in and deal with it. Whatever you have on women, you have to feel confident enough in that outfit for you to walk out and accept whatever somebody says.
Exactly.
Because you can't beat everybody who thinks that you look like you're going to a Halloween party.
Everybody going to have an opinion.
Yeah.
So you accept the good with the bad.
Well, you do. But the thing is, if you're going to be doing these different things, you can do it tastefully. A woman was... in the hospital where I was, and her lashes took up her whole face. And she's sitting up there looking at me. I said, can you read with those? I guess she didn't like that too much, but it was too late because that's the only thing I could think of. Can you really read with your eyelashes batting this way and they're this long? Oh, yeah, I said to myself, I restrained myself, Brian, and I didn't say, you probably don't read at all. That's probably why it's not a problem. Because I don't see how you can do that. But in the history of women, as they came through the ages, they have always just been an accessory. Men never looked at them as being anything useful. You figure that when the Declaration was written, there were no women sitting around the table, not even one. So the men wrote all this stuff up, and they were going to abide by this, and this. And then they decided that in order to get somebody in the parliament or wherever, that we were going to vote. So who was voting? just men.
Right.
100 years later, they decided, why don't we give women the right to vote? And then another 100 later, give black people the right to vote. But that was their thing. That's what they did. That's what they believed in, controlling everything.
Mm-hmm.
So when women decided we're breaking away from this, and even some of them then in that period realized they were getting absolutely no benefit from all these laws and rules that men were making. So some of them decided, well, you know what we can do? We can start being, prostitutes. So they started prostitution on their own. And when men found out that they were getting paid and making money, they took that away from them, and they start taking the money and planning when they would have these sexual things. So they always felt like they weren't useful, so they just behaved that way. So then there was this group of women who formed because they weren't getting any respect, a group called the Petticoat Rulers. And this was in Wyoming. Mm. They came out in the town that was being run by the men. They took it over. And they started making it happen. So when we start doing that, then the men look at them as, oh, they're troublemakers and they're, problems with this and that and the other. But the women came in and ruled the town better than they did, so of course they didn't like that. But in every facet of our history, women have just been disrespected as anybody who has anything to say. They would just disregard what they had to say, and they still try to do it, but more women are breaking out. Mm-hmm. Like now you can think of women who are, as people say, strong women, who have done some great things now.
Right.
And if I ask you, who would you think is a strong woman in the respect that she came in and started doing the things that men would have never expected or approved of her doing? And is there a person who comes to your mind right away?
Well, I think of the person that, what was that book about, where Taraji P. Henson, she played the role with the NASA,
Oh, yeah.
So I think about her.
Something figures.
Yeah, hidden figures, yeah. And what she went through, mm-hmm. And how, she calculated, as far as the NASA and mm-hmm. space. And so mm-hmm. I thought that was a very interesting and a good film.
Yeah, so. And you know what? I didn't go to the movie to see it. And I did see it on TV. Mm-hmm. And after I saw it the first time, I went back again and looked at it. And I said, you know what? That is just typical of the way things were, and to a lesser degree are, because men just don't think you have any right around the table where decisions are being made, because you're airheads. Mm-hmm. And a lot of women gave them that opinion because that's how they act, like airheads. And, the dumb blonde syndrome. And,
they, have that.
All that crazy stuff.
They, do like stupid stuff or whatever case may be. Mm-hmm. But like you say, but you got different people. Like you got men that are, airheads too, and this and that.
Yeah.
So it's enough to go around.
Absolutely.
And so, but as far as women, like you say, you think of women that's, contributed and done some great things. I think of her and as, you look at the history, there's a lot of great African queens, mm-hmm. That...
and warriors.
And warriors that helped our society. So we, definitely got to give a big ups to the women that have done it and still doing it now. So...
Well, you think about other things. Like I think about those kind of things often because I really would like to see women, kind of reel in some self-respect about some things. And they feel like if they pull their boobs out that you've just lost your mind and you can't think of anything else but that. But don't let that be the first thing that they notice or like about you. I would like to see that change just a little. But when I looked around and I said, I wonder, all these different statues and monuments in the district. Mm-hmm. So many of them. And I wanted to know how many statues, monuments, have been risen for women. The only ones that they could come up with are the ones where a woman is paired with a man. Like the first woman they mentioned was Eleanor Roosevelt. But there are no statues of Eleanor Roosevelt by herself, even though most people consider her a good role model for a woman who's getting out and making things happen. And she did while she was First Lady, right? But there are no statues for her, only if she was with her husband. Mm. And then the rest of the ones who I saw were like nymphs. Why in the world would somebody, if I said how many women, why would they bring nymphs into the picture? Those are kind of fictitious things. Mm. So there's nothing that gives us that. Like they wanted to have Martin Luther King statue put up, and they did. But there are no women, and particularly black women. Mary McLeod Bethune was the only statue that they have of a black woman. And certainly other black women have done things.
Right.
But nobody is an advocate for them, not even other women. So in women's history, we have to learn how to respect ourselves and uplift ourselves to the point where we are invited to the table. They feel like they can't do without us, instead of putting ourselves in a position where we're recognized by our body parts.
Yeah, I mean, and sometimes, far as, as men, because that's how, I know it's not right, but yeah, we look at women, differently because of, their body parts or whatever case may be. But then, just to have that conversation, with them, and, they're more than just body parts, and, like say boobs or, their butts or whatever case may be. Mm-hmm. But, just to have a general conversation, see where their mind is at. And you had some good interactions.
Well, it's kind of ridiculous anyway, because women walking the street, walking their pets or whatever, and some guy pull up beside them, hey, baby, do you want to do? Why would you stop a woman in the middle of the street with that kind of madness? Because, she'd have to be pretty stupid to answer him at all. But if you're going to answer him at all, I would have some choice words that would sting his mind a little bit.
Well, the thing is that some women do and some women don't. So men are just playing a numbers game. And
so they just ask all of them the same question.
They go through the numbers.
It's crazy.
And some they get and some they don't. So, but if a woman didn't do it, then they wouldn't keep doing it, because they wouldn't be too successful at it.
They're playing the odds, huh? They're doing the FanDuel or whatever.
Yeah, they just doing the numbers game. If he taught the 20, maybe he'd get 2 or 3. The percentage is low, but that 2 or 3 may lead to something. So that's how they look.
I think you're probably right to a degree that's exactly what they're doing, just playing the numbers game.
Yeah,
it's like going to a club and all of the men standing on the wall trying to see what woman is going to break out and, bend over and touch her toes or some crap.
Yeah, and they just going through the numbers. Yeah, like you say, got action, and, they going at it. So I've seen it. So,
and I was in a club, and when the music started, this woman started just screaming, and like she was she was expecting a fan club to come out of the back or something. Mm-hmm. So, of course, guys were running to her to dance with her because of the way she was dancing. So she took this one guy out on the floor, and she commenced to put in her leg up on his shoulder.
Oh, wow. Okay.
With a skirt on. So he was taking advantage of that and wanting to invite her out and buy that dinner and what's the other dinner and whatever else they can get. Mm-hmm. So he could get her out of the club. And chances are she would have gone. But the only way women that we're going to walk away from our history of being so easy to get in certain circumstances is for us to stop being that way. If I'm in a place, a guy comes up and says, can I buy you a drink? And I'll say, no, thank you. And so he want to come back again. Well, I could buy you a beer or something if you want. I said, thank you, but no. Mm-hmm. And then he says, oh, so you one of them uppity ones. Nobody can do anything for you, huh? I said, well, sir, let me just put it this way. if I had known you were going to be here to buy everything I wanted, I could have left my wallet home. But I didn't know you were going to be here. So I had to come prepared to do what I have to do for me.
Right. Or
no, but that didn't stop me. He's ignorant. He want me to go meet his mother. I said, could you just go away, please? Thank you.
He's persistent, wasn't he?
Yeah, but I told him, I said, well, all of y'all got to stop being desperate. Just because the man want to buy you a beer. No, it takes more money than that for me. The beer got to be in a gold bottle with, silver and some diamonds, but I digress. But anyway, the thing that I want to leave women with in this episode is for them to understand that in order for you to get the kind of respect you think you want, you have to be respectful.
Amen.
I'm not going to follow you around if I'm a guy and all I see is you doing negative and raunchy things, even if that's really what I want. I don't think that men would treat you that way. I've never had any problem with them doing that. And if I don't have a problem with it, and if 50 million other women don't have a problem with it, you're having a problem because of you, not because of them. And men will usually, like you said earlier, dangle a carrot in front of your face. If you're going to bite, then okay, I got a winner.
Exactly. So
just stop being a victim, is what I'm saying. Don't let history repeat itself. And I know I could have talked about different women in history and what they've done, but a lot of people don't respect them for who they are and what they do anyway. So I want to talk about you just bringing that level of respect into your life and for you to be the kind of woman that you think men of a higher caliber, if you will, would want. Just be you.
Amen.
Because there's a man for every type of woman. So we want to give you the last word on this subject if you want it. And if not, then we'll talk about something else.
Well, just like you said, just be you and be authentic.
Yeah.
Let them know what you want and what you will accept and not accept. And it makes life a lot easier.
For sure. Well,
keep it simple.
Keep it simple, stupid, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what they need to do is stop being stupid. If you want to be something other than that, you can change it. And what we're going to do is leave that subject where it is because I could talk about that all day and I'm sure you could. But you want to stay tuned for our next episode because in that one, we're going to talk about whether it's men or women, who get the most out of a relationship or a marriage or, two people being together, whatever. And I think that's going to be a pretty hot, saucy topic.
Amen.
Because a lot of women are going to say women. A lot of men are going to say women. A lot of women are going to say men. So you have to come back and see just how we're going to resolve that.
All right.
And we're going to come to a conclusion about it. So you come back to our next episode of Something to think about. Okay? And then we can talk about it after we think enough, but don't come back and not think. Okay?
All right.
Okay. Bye.